I'm Kavitha Corey. I'm the professor of politics and director of the McCulloch Center. And it's my pleasure to welcome you all here today to our info session on Mount Holyoke's joint program, BA-MA program with the Graduate Institute in Geneva. It's become one of our signature programs. And this year we have 4 of our students studying in Geneva. And we're very proud of the program and the way in which it has evolved and our partnership with the Graduate Institute. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, April Stroud, and she is going to move the proceedings. Thank you very much for being here.
Stroud, and I am the director of Study Abroad, and yeah, we're really excited to be able to host this information session. We are now this will be the 4th cycle, the 4th application year, and we, as Kavita said, we have 4 students that are currently in their 1st year of the program, and I believe we have 3 graduates so far. We're really excited to be able to talk about this opportunity and some slight changes to the program this year for those of you who may be applying for this coming year or for in the future. So without further ado, if you give me a second, I will pass it off to Diego in Geneva. The one.
Diego, would you like me to introduce the program quickly?
Yeah,
Yes?
I think it'd be better, and then I do the overview. Yeah.
Good. Okay. Well, hello everyone. My name is Eliane Minassian. I am the deputy head of the student service at the Graduate Institute and head of the international programs. And I also have a third hat, which is the student wellbeing and support at the Graduate Institute. I really thank you for your interest in the BA-MA program, which I'm happy to quickly introduce to you today. Mount Holyoke is one of our 12 partners in the joint programs, and it was in 2018 that the first students from Mount Holyoke participated in this particular BA-MA program. So today we also have the pleasure to introduce to you 2 of the present cohort, 2 Mayas, as a matter of fact, and who kindly accepted to share their experience with you. So we'll get back to them later. I will then let my colleague and head of the student service, Mr. Diego Gutierrez, present the institute to you. But before, I would like to give you a little overview of what you can expect from the BA-MA program. So the BA-MA program gives you the possibility to begin a master program at the Graduate Institute during the 4th year of the bachelor studies. You will then take the fall semester at the Graduate Institute and return to Mount Holyoke during the spring semester to finish your BA, your bachelor. This is possible thanks to an agreement and a mutual recognition of the credits during this year by both institutions. At the Graduate Institute, you will have the choice between an interdisciplinary master program called the Master in International and Development Studies. In order to choose this program, you will need to show 3 years of studies in social science at the bachelor level. You also have the choice to select one of the 5 other disciplinary masters like anthropology and sociology, international relations and political science, international history and politics, international law, and international economics. To participate in one of these programs, 3 years at bachelor level in a relevant discipline are required, and the programs specializing in law and economics require a solid background in these fields of study. Mr. Gutierrez will tell you more about these programs. The tuition fees of the 4th year of your studies when you spend the fall semester at the Graduate Institute are paid directly by Mount Holyoke. Tuition fees for the following and final year of your master program are then paid by you, by the students. They are 8,000 francs. It is important to note that students who wish to apply to the Graduate Institute for financial aid, which is possible only during their 2nd year, have to do this while they apply to the program. No request will be taken into consideration thereafter. If you would like to apply to the BA/MA program, you will need to be nominated by Mount Holyoke first. And it is important that you therefore use the special link, which you will be provided by Mount Holyoke administration. This will also allow us to keep an eye on the selection process while the decision will be taken by another level. The application deadline is on 15th of January, and we also have a late application round on the 1st of March, but we recommend you to consider the January deadline. Besides our regular master programs, we offer students who do not speak French or have little knowledge to participate in a French course organized at the Graduate Institute. If you have no or little knowledge, you will attend 3 weeks intensive course in the summer prior to the start of the academic year in September, and then follow weekly classes during the full semester. We encourage you then to pursue French lessons during the spring semester when you go back to Mount Holyoke. At the beginning of the fall semester, you will take a French class, a French test, and in case of failure, we'll continue the French lessons during the semester, and finally, you will take another test again at the start of the 4th semester. Students who speak fluently French and who have a secondary or post-secondary diploma in French and who can produce a French language certificate equivalent to a DLF B1 level are not required to take these French courses. Now, once admitted, students will receive regular communications from our admission team, informing them about the next steps to take, like, for example, the visa application process, which is required for non-UN citizens. It is important to know that the visa process may take up to 3 months, so you have to get organized. Students have the possibility to apply for an accommodation at our students' residence. Their tariffs vary between 800 Swiss francs and up. Housing in Geneva is generally quite expensive, and the closer we get to the start of the academic year, the less rooms you will find, and generally these are then less affordable. We therefore encourage you again to contact the housing administration at the soonest. I will share with you the link afterwards. As for the living expenses, if you have a monthly budget of about 1,800 to 2,000 Swiss francs, you will be able to cover reasonable costs for housing, insurance, transportation, and food. This is it for the BA/MA program. I remain available for questions later on, and I now invite Mr. Gutierrez to present the Graduate Institute more broadly, and afterwards our students will share their experience with you.
Thank you very much, Eliane. Yeah, can you hear me well? Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so if you allow me, I will just share my screen. Yes. So thank you very much. I would like to introduce the Graduate Institute overall, and then I can get into specifics of the master programs in case this is interesting for this presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have at the end. My name is Diego Gutierrez. I'm the head of the Student Services, and I work with Eliane. So welcome to the Graduate Institute. You see my background, I have a very lovely picture, but I must confess that today was a day like this. So we were lucky, still lucky, until winter comes. And this picture you have in here is of the students arriving at the end of the summer. So let me just, yeah. What are the 3 important things about the Graduate Institute that I'd like to start with? It's a long-standing reputation for academic excellence. The Graduate Institute was established in 1927. This was a critical time in Geneva. It was the moment when certain international organizations were establishing their presence in Geneva. And this was done at the time under the leadership of a few very important people at the time in Geneva. One of them was a US professor teaching economic history at the University of Geneva, William Rappard, who had this brilliant idea of saying, well, at the same time we're establishing the ILO and other international organizations in Geneva, why we don't put in place at the same time an institution that will be training the officials and the people that will be involved in the management of these institutions. And this is how the Graduate Institute got started almost 100 years ago. From there, we've been dealing with global affairs and international policy making for over 100 years, and we've been incorporating issues as they came on the table over the time. No, and this is why in the 60s we embraced the development issues, and this has been part of the DNA of the Graduate Institute ever since. And that's why today we are the Graduate Institute of International and Development Studies. At the same time, the Graduate Institute has a very vibrant campus. So not because Geneva is a very vibrant city, and I hope our two students can confirm this. It's a very small city, it's a very quiet city, but at the same time, we are located in an international neighborhood that is very vibrant in the sense that we have all around, and I will show you a picture later. We have all around many international organizations and different actors involved in global affairs. And that's why it makes it for a very vibrant interaction in campus and off campus. And finally, another important feature of the Graduate Institute, Mount Holyoke may be also very international and very diverse, but we're very proud of being the diverse we are, with more than 100 nationalities within the student body. I recently gave an interview for a Swiss media where one of the questions was how international the Graduate Institute is, and the answer for them was quite shocking, because they said, well, about 11% of the students are Swiss, and this for a Swiss institution is very remarkable. So this is a little bit of a snapshot of what the Graduate Institute is. Now, a few figures. This is just at the end of the summer, so we may have an update in a few weeks, but more or less we are within the same terms. We are over 1,000 students in size. This is the size that we intend to have, over 1,000, just barely 1,000, so not more than this, coming from 430 different universities and representing a little bit more than 100 nationalities. I think the last time I checked it was 105, but this gives you a little bit of an overview. So 30% coming from Asia, 27%, 30% from Europe, 13% North America, 11% only Switzerland, and then 10% Latin America, Africa, and Oceania is the least represented ones. And actually, we're trying to increase our presence from there. And all in all, the Graduate Institute has an alumni network of over 20,000 people who are very much involved in the life after the studies at the Graduate Institute. They have different chapters and ambassadors all over the world, and they help making this connection in between the studies at the Institute and the career afterwards. This is the Graduate Institute mission, which is a little bit long, but I will read it with you. I think it's important because it will capture the DNA of what we do. We are located in the heart of international Geneva, which matters a lot for what we do. And we produce and sell academic knowledge and expertise on international relations, development issues, global challenges, and governance. Through a combination of scientific excellence, transdisciplinarity, and critical thinking, we nurture students and professionals to become decision makers open to the world. We equip them with the competencies, confidence, and sense of responsibility necessary to drive positive transformation. And this is very much the DNA. You will see later when I speak about careers. I think where students go reflects very much the mission of the Graduate Institute. How do we do this? We do it through teaching, we do it through research, and we do it also through becoming a gathering actor in Geneva. So let me show you a little bit the different elements. First, the research. These are the topics we deal with, and we have a research center in each of these issues. So if any of this sounds like home to you, we may have something to offer in terms of research or teaching programs. In terms of the teaching, we have master programs and PhD programs. I will start with the master programs, which is probably the ones you're interested in for the BMA. You have, as Elian was saying before, we have an interdisciplinary program. This is something that changes from the past, and I will get into this in a minute, and the disciplinary programs. The Institute is composed of 5 academic departments on these 5 fields: anthropology and sociology, international economics, international history and politics, international law, and international relations, political science. So each of them as a department, and each of them offers a master's degree and a PhD program. And that's why we call them the disciplinary, because usually students undertaking this do belong to the discipline. They have studied as a BA any of these subjects. On the other side, we have the interdisciplinary programs, for which there's not a specific faculty, but it's the faculty for this program is composed of faculty from all of the disciplines, and they teach, sometimes even you may have 2 professors from different departments teaching the same course. And this is why the emphasis is put in the interdisciplinarity. A difference here, and maybe this is more for Maya and Maya, Up until now, we had 2 interdisciplinary programs, one in international affairs and one in development studies. And I believe both of you come from MDEF and MIA, so you represent both of them. And from next year onwards, what we've done is we've evolved from these 2 programs into one single program, which at the end of the day is composed of the very same courses we are offering now to the students. So it's not that it changes so much, but what we're doing is we're coming to a conclusion based on what we've been learning from the students, that there was not much of a difference between international affairs and development studies in most of the things we were offering. So we've come with a one single entry point, and that's why we changed the name into International and Development Studies. And within this single entry point, we share a core set of courses, and then we offered the specialization tracks that we're offering at the moment for those students that joined this year. So I will show you in a minute the different specializations that you have, but it's not that we're changing completely the programs at the Institute. It's just simply that we are reorganizing the way we are offering the specializations for students interested in interdisciplinary programs. Before I get into the program itself, another important distinguishing feature in between the disciplinary and the interdisciplinary programs is that the disciplinary ones are very much research focused. So typically there's a lot of credits, there are a lot of credits involved in theories, in research methods, and students going for these ones, they're usually intending to do research afterwards. This can take the form of continuing the studies into a PhD program, but at the same time, it could be leading into positions where this research and this very disciplinary focus is very much of importance. Whereas the interdisciplinary programs are very much practice oriented, and you will see this when I get a little bit more into the details of these programs, but they together with courses in the substantive specialization track one opts for, there's also the possibility to do an internship for credits, the possibility to do a research project, and the possibility to gain competencies based on skills rather than substantive knowledge only, which is the case of the disciplinary programs. So for those of you interested in the interdisciplinary programs, these are the 7 specializations that will be offered from next year. The 7: conflict, peace and security, environment and sustainability, gender, race and diversity, global health, human rights and humanitarianism, mobilities, migration and boundaries, and sustainable trade and finance. If you look at the programs as they are up until this year, you will see that these specializations are already there. We have enlarged a little bit more, some of them that were not so strong, and now they will be offered. Some of them might have changed a little bit the name, but this is the core of the new interdisciplinary program. One thing that changes compared to previous year as well is that once you apply into this new MINT program, you will have to choose a specialization or 2. So actually you will be asked for your preference, because you will end up belonging to a specialization. So you can indicate what is your first preference and your second preference, and then if you're admitted into the program, you will also be admitted into a specialization, either your first one or your second one. So it's very important that at the application stage, you indicate your preference, and you will see that in the application. Now, if you I can come back to this in the Q&A if you want, but I will move on into other programs that are available at the Graduate Institute in case you want to continue with your studies afterwards. Each academic department offers a PhD program, as I mentioned before, and the International Economics Department offers 2, and this is a bit of a historical legacy. So there's one PhD program in International Economics and another one in Development Economics. But other than this, every academic department has a PhD program. They're usually 4 years long, with the possibility to extend into a 5th year. There's also the possibility to go in on exchange. I think this possibility is not the most popular amongst you, because in a way you're already coming to the Graduate Institute, moving from your university, so you may not be willing to move around so much, but there's a possibility to do an exchange program during the 3rd semester. And these are the partners that we have all across the world. You can check this on the website. This is just to give you a bit of an overview. In addition to this, there's a possibility to come to the Graduate Institute for our summer programs. We have typically 2, one on international affairs over the course of 5 weeks in June, July, and another one on the United Nations in the month of August, towards the end of August. Also, you may want to apply for the undergraduate program, which can last for 1 or 2 semesters, and you take dedicated courses for the undergraduate students and also some courses at the master's level. Now, for future, you should also know that we have a number of partner programs with different institutions, and also we have executive education. So partner programs we have is the LLM in International Law, the LLM in Global Health Law with Georgetown, the LLM in International Humanitarian Law and Human Rights with the University of Geneva, and an LLM in International Dispute Settlement, which is mostly international arbitration with the University of Geneva as well. And then executive education, we offer different programs all across the year, but these are the most popular ones, the ones that have a long-standing reputation at the Graduate Institute. But let me move into what life looks like at the Institute, and we may go back to Maya and Maya afterwards. I don't know if you had already experience with this, but the life as a student at the Institute revolves around the Graduate Institute Student Association. So they are the body that represents the students and organizes a little bit the life of the students at the Graduate Institute. I must say that unlike US institutions, our focus at the Institute is very much on initiatives that have to do with the studies. So that's why I list here just a little some of the initiatives that we have at the Institute, and you will see that they're focusing on substantive issues, and this is where the interaction happens within the students mostly, and it's not so much related to sports or cultural activities and so on at the Institute. But you will have the possibility to do in, and I will come to this in a minute, sports and culture in other fora. Now, another very important service that we provide is student well-being. I mean, of course, it is always important, but it's been really important in the last 2 years with the pandemic. And on this, the Graduate Institute is there to support students with regard to time management, which could be challenging given the workload at the Graduate Institute with any mental health issue, cross-cultural competencies. For many of our students, it's the very first time they go abroad, and to arrive in an environment which is so diverse sometimes can take time to adjust. And so we provide also with training on this. And then we help with social integration in Geneva and at the Graduate Institute. What I was mentioning before with regard to sports, culture, and leisure, we are a very small institution. We do not have such a large facility, and certainly not a facility for sports. So we benefit from a partnership with the University of Geneva, which is a big institution in Geneva with about 20,000 students, and they do have the facilities. So our students are considered as students of the University of Geneva, and therefore they can enjoy any cultural or sport proposal activity that the university offers to students. Moving on to what happens when our students finish the studies, I must confess that we are slightly biased towards the public sector, if we consider this in a very broad manner. So be these international organizations, governmental work, but also the third sector, the not-for-profit sector. So this is where mostly our students end up working right at the end of the studies. And actually, when we fast forward 6 to 8 years after the graduation, it is very much the same. So we may see some movement within the different sectors, public sector and non-for-profit. So people may be working less in international organizations over the years, but at the end of the day, we very much remain there. It wasn't always like this. I think there's been years where the Institute, alumni, were very much going into the banking industry, which is very important in Switzerland. But I think in the last 20 years, the trend is very clear that students typically work in international organizations, international think tanks and NGOs or governments, be this in Geneva or anywhere else in the world. How do you make it to that? Well, it is not just with the studies you will gain and the knowledge you will gain at the Graduate Institute and the skills, but also with the help of career services. So we have a team that is very much dedicated to the students in order to help them improve their employability skills and make sure that they meet the market. So for that, I would say that the work they do is divided in these 3 different pillars. On the one hand, we provide information to students. There's a weekly newsletter with the different offers that come to the Graduate Institute for internships and jobs. We also provide assistance with regard to work permit regulations in Switzerland, which may be tricky and not easy to understand at the beginning. And also sometimes we do have knowledge in other countries' job markets, so we can help in the transition between Switzerland and that other market in the case of also international organizations and how to navigate the different recruitment processes and working regulations. And also we deal with the working at the Institute. The Graduate Institute does employ many students. for many different things. So it could be in our service, it could be at the library, it could be as technical support students, helping to manage the cameras in the classrooms for the courses now that we are teaching in a hybrid manner. So for all these, the career services will be the service in charge of recruitment. We also do training for students, so we offer weekly workshops on these different things, like from career planning, CV and cover letter drafting, LinkedIn, having a professional social media presence, how to do networking and interview skills. So we provide weekly workshops on this to give every student the possibility to go through the training and maybe check those things that we often don't put enough time in, and maybe critical at the time of making sure we find a job. And finally, we provide an opportunity for students to meet with the job market by creating these employer presentations. We invite employers to the Institute on a weekly basis. We create industry-specific events where, for instance, we can have a theme one day on global health, and we have different actors coming to the Institute. It could be the WHO, the ICSC, Novartis, so both public and private, that they come to the Institute. We do roundtables where we usually involve alumni together with representatives from the different industries. We do recruitment days where industry comes to recruit and to have short interviews with the students, and connection days where the purpose is to allow people to network in a non-violent, non-conflictual manner. Okay, what other things do we do? We enjoy the fact that we have a broad alumni for our size, but it is very focused on global affairs. So it's an easy to reach and very much into the field alumni that organizes in different chapters and through different ambassadors in different countries all over the world. And they're very much involved in the life after the studies at the Graduate Institute. I've just put a few. Some names will be familiar, some others will not. I'm sure at Mount Holyoke you also have wonderful alumni, so you know how important it is to make the most of this network. And finally, a few words in Geneva, in case you've never been to Geneva. It's a beautiful place, very quiet, as I said. I'm not promising you will have party times that much. It's very well located, so students, particularly before COVID, hopefully now they will come back into doing that. They used to travel a lot within Europe because it's a 2-hour flight or train ride from different nice destinations. We're also well located in terms of the community we have around. I always say that I come from Spain, from a city that is exactly the same size as Geneva, but it's extremely local, so there's no international people. When I left, I think there were 9 registered foreigners, just to give you an idea, and they were usually mostly football players and basketball players. So if you were to put the Graduate Institute in my hometown, it will be, the quality inside the institute will be the same. But once you go out, there will be very little to do in terms of international or global affairs. Whereas at the Institute, we are really at the heart of international policymaking, being in the international neighborhood in Geneva, as I will show you in a picture in a minute. This is what I was mentioning. So we are surrounded by 38 international organizations, more than 400 NGOs, and this is the headquarters for plenty of multinational companies, providing for a lot of opportunity to interact and to find opportunities to work after the studies. Just a picture that will show this. Everything that is in red is facilities of the Graduate Institute. So we are here in the middle of the page with the Maison de la Paix. Everything started in 1927 in this Villa Barton on the shores of Lake Geneva. At the time, there were probably 9 to 20 students. So we've been growing and having to move into different buildings until 2013, when we built the Maison de la Paix. And the final addition to the facilities of the Institute has been the residence. I don't know if Maya, one of you, live there, but this has been very recent. I think it was launched only in January 2021. And as you see, everything that is in white is just some of the big international organizations surrounding the Graduate Institute. The mountains at the end is the Jura, and this is France. So we're just 3-4 kilometers away from the border. Actually, this open space here is the airport. That is the border between France and Switzerland. And on the other side, you have the Alps. So it's also, if you are fond of sports and being outside, well, Geneva is a little paradise for hiking, skiing, and doing road cycling, for instance. So I highly recommend you to visit. Moving on to the final part of my presentation, I wanted to also emphasize not just the teaching and the research, but also the fact that we are a hub for interactions within Geneva. So we have more than 600 events taking place at the Institute. Since the beginning of this academic year, we have started to do again the events in person. So we are happy to see plenty of people in the building, which has not been the case for the last couple of years. And just to give you a few of the names that usually we've had in the last 2 years. As I mentioned, there's the 2 residences. So the one that we just built and which is open in January this year, Grand Morillon with 650 beds, and the one we had since 2013, the Picciotto, with 250. This is something that is very important to the Institute because before that, when I was a student, for instance, at the Institute more than 10 years ago, housing in Geneva was very difficult and it can get very challenging, as Eliane was saying before. So the fact that now we have a pool of 900 beds where it allows us to provide a bed for most of our students, and that's something that hopefully will be putting less stress in the arrival in Geneva for our students. Finally, if you are willing to apply, what you should be doing. General admission criteria, as Eliane was saying before, if you're applying for a disciplinary master's program, typically you should have a BA, or you should be undertaking a BA in the discipline. That will be the basic requirement. If you're not and you have a BA in social sciences, then you may be willing to apply for the interdisciplinary program. The application process, the evaluation process is undertaken by the faculty of the Graduate Institute, and they do an overall assessment of the whole file. So they will look into your performance. And in the past, we've had phenomenal students coming from your institution. So I would say it's important that you have a good transcript. It's important also the letters of reference that you get. And on that, the general advice that we provide is that these are genuine letters in the sense that they're coming from people that do know you. So we don't care so much about the importance of the person saying in the letter, whether this is a very famous professor, very senior professor, or the dean, or any other important figure around you, but there is someone that really knows you. So it can perfectly be a much more junior faculty member. At the end of the day, the importance is that they say something meaningful about you. Also, your personal statement is very important to us because we need to understand what is that you are intending to do by coming to the Graduate Institute. It is important for us that we're a good match, both the Graduate Institute to you and you to the Graduate Institute. So make sure you explain that carefully, why you're doing the studies that you're doing, what is it that you're intending to do afterwards, why the Graduate Institute may be a critical asset for you in that journey, and that's it. So this will be the main component of the evaluation process. Yeah, this was just mentioned. Important dates for the application is the application deadline, which is the regular application deadline of the 15th of January, and then the late application deadline of the 1st of March. Eliane was mentioning about the financial aid request. So you can do that if you apply within the regular deadline of the 15th of January. But applications coming on the 1st of March are usually not considered for the financial aid assistance. So I highly recommend to do it by the 15th of January. What you should be doing, you should just complete the online application form. Once you get the special link that Eliane referred to, you just to upload the supporting documents, and the decisions will be issued by mid-March for those that apply by the 15th of January, and by April for those that apply in March. And that is from me. You can get to know much more about us by going to graduateinstitute.ch, meet us, and you can have a personal appointment if you want with any of our counselors, or you can follow us on social media and through the website of the Graduate Institute. So thank you so much. This is my presentation. Sorry if it's been too long, but I'm very happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Very much. I did, before the students speak, and I'm so happy Maya and Maya are here, I did just want to let everyone know that Mount Holyoke's internal deadline is November 30th. So this would be of your junior year. And we have the request to study abroad, in addition to the supplemental application, which is essentially your statement of purpose and your letters of recommendation, the things that you would need to have ready to apply should you be selected as one of the candidates to be put forth to the Graduate Institute. So there's 2 selections, right? There's one at Mount Holyoke, and there are a team of faculty and staff here that in the relevant departments, IR, so history, economics, environmental studies, that are all looking at the applications. And then we put forth up to 3 students per year. This was a kind of a special year because we hadn't had that many students in the past, but we're really starting to gain momentum. So I don't think that would happen too often. And let's see what else I'd say. And then if you are selected, you would be notified that in December that you have to complete your application and follow the link in January. So, but with that, I will turn it over to Maya, and Maya, who could speak to, they've gone through that process and how they're doing, and maybe some tips, and we can open it up for questions too.
I was thinking that Maya and I could say a little bit about ourselves and then open it up to questions from the audience. Does that sound all right to everyone? Maya, do you want to go first?
Sure. So my name is also Maya Maruf. I'm an international student from the Maldives at Mount Holyoke. This is my senior year. I'm majoring in international relations with a minor in gender studies. In the IR major, I'm focusing on international institutions more broadly out of the concentrations that are given at Mount Holyoke, but my interests lie mainly in global climate governance and feminist international relations theories. As for the Graduate Institute, this is my first semester here, and I would love to talk more about it, but I'm doing the Master in International Affairs on the Environment, Resources, and Sustainability track.
Hi, everybody. So my name's Maya. I use they, them pronouns, and I'm in the same semester as Maya. So this is my first semester here at the Graduate Institute. I'm studying to get a master's in development studies, but like Diego mentioned earlier, the departments will be merging next year, so it will now become MINT. But as of right now, within the development studies master, I'm focusing on power and conflict. And at Mount Holyoke, I am a politics major, a French minor, and with a nexus in law, public policy, and human rights. Did anybody have any questions or curious about anything?
Maya, maybe you can tell us something about your student life here, like the student residence, maybe something about your arrival when you got to Geneva. How did it feel? Yeah, share a little bit like this kind of experience that you had. Did you participate in the social event programs, which was put up by the GISA, stuff like that?
Yeah, I can speak to this a little bit. So I arrived in Geneva at the end of August. I came a little bit early for the 3-week intensive French course, which, as it sounds, it is intensive. The very next day after I came, I started classes, and you have to take French for 4 hours a day, 5 days a week. But, I ended up really enjoying it. It was really tiring, but very rewarding. And right now I'm taking French only like 2 hours once a week. So it's good. So that was when I first came in. The very next day, things started. And like right after the intensive French course was over, my classes began. But I'm really enjoying classes right now. I'm taking 5 classes. I'm taking International Environmental Law and Policy. I'm taking 2 classes with Dr. Susanna Hecht. One is an advanced research seminar on systemic collapse and adaptation. The other one is an international environmental history course. As I mentioned, I'm also taking French, but I think my least favorite part probably is taking statistics. So definitely take a statistics course while you are at Mount Holyoke. I did, but I thought I would take one more here just to solidify the concepts. As for living situation, I am living in GM, one of the student residences. It's not too far from the institute. It's really like 2 bus stops away. So you take bus 5 or F from here, and it stops. If you take 5, it's 2 stops. It stops literally right in front of the United Nations, and then you walk 3 minutes to the institute. And it's crazy because as someone who is studying, interested in international institutions, every day, like walking to class, getting off at the UN, and then on the walk, being surrounded by like so many international organizations, embassies. In fact, like I think the Maldivian embassy is like also kind of right in front of the La Maison de la Paix as well. So yeah, it's a great experience so far.
Yeah, I have never like lived abroad or studied abroad before. And I've only left the country like twice. And so I think that puts me very much in the minority of all the students here. It's very global and international. And so I know that when I got here, I'm still processing, honestly, that I'm like in a new place. And sometimes I just have this realization. I was like, oh, wow, I'm actually in Switzerland right now. So the adjustment process has been really good and really smooth. I think everyone here has been so nice, and it was easy to like talk to people and get to know people. And there's like Welcome Month, where all the different like student initiatives and clubs and student government like host things in different events. So it's a good way to like meet new people. And my classes, I was telling someone this the other day, where the aspects of all the classes I've taken at Mount Holyoke, like the particular units within each classes that I found the most interesting, now my classes here are focused on just that. And so it's like very specific. I would have never thought, if I had talked to my high school self, I would have never thought that I'd be getting a master's in development. And so I think this experience is really what you make of it. I'm sure a lot of the advice that's given to just studying abroad applies to this situation as well, where like you want to put yourself out there, you want to try new things, but also remember to take some time to process, get settled, and obviously work hard in school, but also enjoy living in a new place, trying new things, that kind of stuff.
I know this is quite recent still since you started your studies at the Graduate Institute, but did any of you join any sports program at the University of Geneva, or did you go for a swim in the lake?
It's a little too cold to swim in the lake now. I wish I had done it sooner. And I'm not doing any sports things, but at the Graduate Institute, I'm a member of the Queer Student Association, the Environmental Committee, and I'm also a little bit involved with the South Asian Student Initiative. But there's a badminton court inside of Grand Morillon, like GM, where we live, and so people get together to play that. I have not done it yet, but what about you, Maya? Like, have you done anything with UniJ?
Yeah, I have been there to play badminton, so there's definitely that. I have not gone swimming, but I have been able to dip my toes in the Lake Geneva a couple times. I like to go there with my friends that I've made here. And also, fun fact, I am currently living here with my best friend from Mount Holyoke. She's the one who told me about this program, so we applied together, went through the whole process together. Her name is Paula. She's doing the Master in Development Studies as well. So we are sharing an apartment at GM where, like it's all students. Most of them go to the Institute. So yes, you can do many things. Like there have been events so far, a couple of like movie screenings, like some parties. Of course, like there is like the COVID regulation, like you have to have the Swiss COVID certificate or vaccination proof to be able to go to those. But I have not been involved in sports outside of that. What I was mentioning earlier about badminton, but I am very much involved with the Environment Committee, which is one of the initiatives at the Graduate Institute. Just last Friday, we actually went on a visit to the International Environment House in Geneva. And it was a really cool experience because I was able to speak to and listen to presentations from people from UNEP, United Nations Environment Program, CITES, and there was one more that I'm forgetting right now. But it was one of the many great experiences that I'm able to participate and be a part of through the Environment Committee. And we actually have our general, one of our general meetings for EC tomorrow. And I think I'm planning to run for a board member of EC for the as an event coordinator. So very excited about that. Wish me luck. Am I missing anything else? But of course, there are many other things that you can do. It's sort of like Mount Holyoke, where you have so many different clubs and organizations to choose from. But you really have to figure out like what you're interested in, stick to one, like don't commit yourself to things. Like you still have to focus on studies, but right now I thought I would limit myself to just one because I have moved around a lot for school. But so it isn't, I mean, it's still new here in Switzerland, but I really need that time in that transitional phase. So I'm just doing involved in the Environment Committee as of now, but looking forward to do more.
You have my vote. One thing that I did want to add, because I know I was super nervous about it before coming here, is I was nervous about like the academic adjustment to like more intense classes. And I will say that I do think Mount Holyoke has prepared us really well in terms of like the types of readings, like the number of readings, the type of writing that's expected, and in terms of like balancing a course load. You know, it's intense, but also it feels like really familiar. I didn't realize until I was already here, so maybe that's on me, but classes are only once a week rather than our typical 2 or 3 times a week for other courses at Mount Holyoke. So like your seminars are once a week, but mostly others. And so for that, if that's something that you're nervous about whether you're going to be prepared enough to handle this work, like you definitely are. And especially by the time that you apply and then by the time that you get here, you got it.
Yeah, and to add on to that, you know, the Graduate Institute is known to be like academically rigorous. It definitely does offer like rigorous theoretical and analytical training, but at the same time, so is Mount Holyoke. Like you are going to be prepared. And I remember when I spoke to alums who were doing this program before I applied, one thing that they said was taking courses at the Graduate Institute is sort of like taking a more challenging 300 level course at Mount Holyoke. And it really is true. And some things are similar in the sense that, for example, like some of my classes are very small, so it's discussion based, reading heavy, like it was at Mount Holyoke, but for others, it's really big. For example, one of the core courses that I'm taking for the MIA program is the Global Governance and Regulations course. That is about, I don't know, like definitely over 60 people in that class. So it's in like it's more of a lecture style. But for example, the environment courses, track courses that I'm taking, they're smaller classrooms where, you know, like my professor knows who I am, like I can participate in discussions. So there's like a little bit of a mix, but don't worry, like if you're a student at Mount Holyoke, you're doing well, like you're going to be prepared. And of course, if there's anything else, I just want to say right now that, you know, I'm going to try my best, and I'm sure all the people who are in the program right now will for you as well, because the alums who were doing the program before us and who had finished it were a great resource for us. Like they did a lot of hand holding for us. They told us about, this is what housing is like. You can apply for one of the residences, like one of the institute's residences, so Pichot or GM, or you could apply for, like, they told us about La Cité, which is the University of Geneva residences, or like you could look for outside institute housing, but international students are likely to be targeted by scammers. So a lot of information was given to us by alums, and the reason we had it relatively easy, I would say, is because we listened to them. We like did not hesitate to reach out for help. So in that way, I want to say that my like DMs on social media are open. You can email me to my Mount Holyoke email if you have any questions, and I would be happy to take them.
Yeah, ditto to like literally all of that. I put my email in the chat, so that can be sent around. Yeah, definitely always reach out.
Questions from our attendees? Anything that wasn't covered or you're curious about or nervous about or? French program or?
Yes. What was the question?
About the French intensive French program. And so arriving 3 weeks early, if somebody, I think, did both of you do it or just one of you?
No, it was just me.
Okay.
What was the question? We lost you for a second.
Oh, just if you could talk about that, the French course, the intensive French course, and what that's like, and why you needed to do that.
Yes. So the intensive French course, I had to take it because when I applied, I said I had like little to no knowledge of French. I mean, I did French for a year when I was 10 years old back home in the Maldives, but then I forgot all of it. So I was like, okay, let me say I have no French. But since the Graduate Institute is a bilingual institution, like you can take courses here in French and in English. And even for courses that are in English, I believe you can submit your papers in French. So we are a bilingual institution, and the idea is that you are able to speak both of them. So when you apply, it's not a problem that you don't speak French, but once you are at the institute, like you should like be able to speak French. And I think the 3-week intensive French course is when you arrive before classes start. So my course was from 2 to 6 p.m. On weekdays for 3 weeks. You cover the basics like grammar, some vocab, things like that. And from after that, like when you go into the semester and you get all your other courses, they will place you in a 2-hour weekly French class. You still like continue learning the language. And at the end of your first year, I believe you're supposed to take an exam that is like, that'll determine like whether you pass or fail. So another thing is that the French course that you take throughout the semester is sort of like an ungraded course at Mount Holyoke. It'll only appear on your transcript as like pass or fail, depending on what happens at the exam. So really, like you're taking French because the Graduate Institute is a bilingual institution, and because I think I attended one of the career service like webinars here, and they were saying that the Graduate Institute also wants to show to your future potential employers that you are competent in French. So that's the idea. I can talk more about it. Feel free to reach out.
Questions here? They've done a fantastic job. I'm wondering if our students could also just talk about the application process, because this essentially, just to make it very clear, serves as your semester abroad. Okay, so you can't do study abroad and do this program. It's really important that you're here for your junior year to establish those connections with relevant faculty and really get a direction so that you can start your graduate work in the first semester of your senior year. So that's a really important piece to note, developing those relationships and figuring out what really excites you within the areas of study so you can think about your specialization within the new MINT program of first and second choice. So I'm wondering, Maya, if you could talk maybe a little bit about your experience with preparing the sort of internal application, which eventually prepared you, got some feedback from the faculty and the staff that ended up selecting you to nominate you to the Graduate Institute, maybe a little feedback on your personal statements, but what that experience was like for you, or maybe what you were worried about, or tips for our potential applicants here.
I can go first. I'm trying to remember. It feels like it was so long ago. I would say that, I know this sounds kind of cheesy, but be as genuine as possible. there's no really point in like posturing or trying to like over hype something and anything like that. I think that the Graduate Institute is very open and flexible, but also it's like for a specific interest. I don't think this is the type of program you do because you like aren't really sure about what else to do. And so in that sense, I think when you are working on your application, just be honest, like what are the things that you are interested in? And even if it's not precise or exact, that's fine. Like your genuine commitment and your passion will show through. And also don't be afraid to ask for help, like get other people to read your application, ask your professors, go to the SAW Center, ask one of us. Like it's totally fine to get help and see what your application looks like with another set of eyes. Also definitely start early if you're a procrastinator like me. You can just start off with like a brain dump. It doesn't have to be good. It just has to be out. And then you can spend time refining it and getting help when you need it.
Yeah, definitely agree with everything Maya said. I think the process seems like it was a long time ago, but it was really like also not that long ago. For me, I found out, like I said earlier, about the program through my best friend. So we did the entire process together. Like we started brainstorming. We did that individually, like what we were going to write on our essays, and we wrote the essays. So the first person to read my essay initially was my best friend, Paola. And then I asked, so my academic advisor at the time was Jeremy King, the head of the history department, but he was also on the panel for the, in the committee for like Mount Holyoke faculty who decides. And so it didn't feel right asking him to read my application. So I asked Andy Ryder, who I was taking a class with at the time. If you don't know who he is, he's the head of the politics department at Mount Holyoke. And I also asked one of my like really, one of the professors at Mount Holyoke that I'm pretty close to, Elizabeth Markovitz, Liz. So Liz and Andy read my application and they gave me feedback. I think the other place that I went to was the Career Development Center at Mount Holyoke. They also gave feedback. So really the key is to start early and to ask people for feedback, like what can I improve on? Like what are my strong points? All that you can get as like the more people that you read your, that are able to read your application for you. And when it was finally ready, like I submitted it. And when I heard back about getting the nomination, I was in Texas for winter break with my best friend. We were spending winter break together in Houston. So it was like, we were so excited and overjoyed when we found out that we both got nominated. And at that time, I got some feedback from the faculty committee at Mount Holyoke saying, you know, your essay was great. We're really impressed by your recommendation letters, especially, but just like fix this little bit. I think they said that my academic interests were too broad, which is great because this is an interdisciplinary program, but I also need to narrow it down a little bit to make it clear in the application. So I followed that and I submitted my application to the Graduate Institute mid-January, I think that's the deadline. Yep. And when we heard back again mid-March, I was with Paola and we went through the whole thing together and we both got into the Institute as well. So my best friend was there with me every step of the way. So like it was a lot, but if you have people to support you, which like your friends and peers at Mount Holyoke, your support network of professors and other people at Mount Holyoke, like people from the Career Development Center, make use of them and they will take you far.
Applying to graduate school early. And I think that's a great point, the Career Development Center, because that's a lot of what they do. You're doing it a little bit earlier than maybe most. So they are a great resource, and that is really wonderful. Questions related? Yeah. More contact information. We took a sign-in sheet, so we'll email this all out, and this recording will be closed caption and available. We'll send it out to you and all of the relevant faculty and departments, so that's available in the future for you. I really wanted to say thank you to our hosts, our folks joining us from 6 hours ahead in Switzerland. We're so appreciative of your time, and really, really helpful to hear firsthand and to hear so many different perspectives on what our students could potentially expect. So thank you so much. All right.
Thank you very much, April, for putting this session together, for organizing all this. We really appreciate very much. A great thank you to both Mayas. I think your tips were really, really, really precious. And I think, yeah, it's really, really important to have someone you can rely on and you can talk to and you can address your questions, concerns. And at the Graduate Institute, we are there as well, of course. Keep this in mind, and do never hesitate to send us, to drop us an email. We hope to see you at the Graduate Institute next year. Big thank you to Diego also for his presentation. And
See you.
we hope to see you soon. Thank you again. All the best to you. Take care. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.